Okay, guys, welcome to Sports Matters TV. I'm in Cork. Stephanie's no doubt up in the Dublin direction at the moment. It's a wet and miserable day here in Ireland, but we're well used to that. Steph, first of all, how are you? How's things? You're busy as always.
I'm good, Jerry. Thank you. Yeah, just trying to keep myself occupied in lockdown. Lucky enough to be able to play football. So, yeah, keeping myself occupied as much as possible.
I love it. Now, we're seeing a lot of stuff at the moment. You're a fantastic analyst and obviously doing a lot of TV work. Are you enjoying that sector of sports at the moment? It's great.
Thank you very much. It's nice to get that feedback. Yeah, look, it's something that I've probably went into maybe last year, the year before, and been lucky enough to have plenty of opportunities to do it. I think the more I do it, the more comfortable I get. It can be a bit nerve wracking at times, particularly when you're working with more experienced people. You try to kind of get your point across, but you're also listening to them and learning from them. So yeah, look, I've really been enjoying it. I love that side of the game, and hopefully I'll get more opportunities in the future to continue doing it.
I think you will. And like we have to revert back, I suppose, to your younger days. Obviously, you started quite young, but where did that love for football first come?
Probably from my dad and my brothers, and they both play football. The younger of the two, Paul, kind of played for fun more so. My eldest brother Eric played in my dad's team, so my dad was the coach, and that's kind of how my dad got involved really. And I kind of used to play in the street with all the lads. Never really thought about playing for a team until I was probably about 11, I think it was. And Ian, one of the lads I played with, his mum said to me, "Would you not go and join the team?" And I went from there and I took off. So really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, loved just playing the street with the lads and just kind of playing that street football where it was just fun and literally from morning to night we were out playing football. So yeah, started from a very young age and got into team kind of environments around 11 or 12.
And do you reckon at that age then you knew straight away, look, I have a big shot here at making it at the big time. What kind of age do you reckon you thought you were when you said, right, this is definitely a professional kind of thing for me?
Probably not till later on, if I'm honest, because when I first started playing, I didn't really know a lot about the women's game. I played with boys up until I could only play until I was 13. So I think it was just 1.5, 2 seasons with Vale and Shankill, and after that I was kind of like, what do I do? And it was just by chance, actually, the manager of Cabin Sealy, he lives in Shankill, and he'd been walking around the park while we played games and seeing me play, and was like to my dad, would Steph like to come up and join the girls team? And it kind of went from there. And it was when I was in the girls team in Cabin Sealy and obviously playing in school, I start getting noticed by like the FEI schools teams, the under 17s women's teams. So it was only kind of when I started playing with the women's side that I realized the opportunities that were there, because before I never knew anything about women's football, if that makes sense. It wasn't as good as it is now. It's definitely improving, and it's a long way to go still, but it's definitely more highlighted nowadays for young girls to be able to see and I suppose aspire to be. But for me, I was mainly kind of inspired by male athletes. Like, I'm a big Man United fan. I would have watched a lot of Man United and obviously the Irish men's team more so than the women's team. So early days it was kind of just playing for fun and see where it went. But thankfully it ended up taking off a little bit more.
It's getting there, and it's thanks to yourself that women's football in Ireland has been more recognised. Tell us about the senior debut. I think it was the 2008-9 season, but what was it like to make the senior debut?
Yeah, it was special. I suppose the away debut was a bit of a crazy one. It was in the playoffs in Iceland, and we played on what could only be described as a hazard pitch. It was pretty much iced over. I don't know how the game went ahead, but I came on for the last few minutes, and yeah, I was very, very grateful for Noel. He kind of showed a lot of faith in me at a young age, and I got my home debut actually in Cork. A couple of months later, we played Kazakhstan, and I came off the bench and scored the winner, which for a striker and a young player coming into the team was a special moment. So yeah, I love playing for Ireland, and making my debut was obviously one of the proudest moments in my career.
I was actually at that game as well. I'll never forget that. So bizarre was
Yeah.
actually there. But we've seen Irish women's football transform. You know what I mean? It's perhaps a slow process due to the fact the government doesn't really give the support and stuff. But do you think we're near enough to perhaps getting the recognition here in Ireland for women's football that it should be? Because we've seen America and stuff. The game is huge. Obviously, there's a lot more financial backing, sponsors and stuff. Do you reckon we're close to maybe getting there, or do you reckon it's still going to take a lot more time?
I think there's still a long way to go. I think definitely things are changing. I think particularly the media coverage on women's football and obviously women's sport in general. I'm obviously playing football, but I like to keep an eye on women's sports, and I like to see kind of all sports women get the kind of I suppose, the platform they deserve and the opportunity to show themselves on kind of a world stage. But yeah, I think there's still a long way to go. I think for me personally, as I said before, when I started playing football, I didn't know anything about women's football. And for
Yeah.
me now, looking back to see how much it's changed and how much it's improved, and I have done a couple of Zoom kind of videos and Q&As with a couple of underage girls teams, and to talk to them and hear their aspirations and know that they have kind of the option to go and play professional football, the option to really, really do well in the women's national league here in Ireland. Like, that's great to see. But I still think, for me personally, we need to really look at trying to make the women's national league here semi-professional. I think when I look at the commitment from all the players within the league, I've obviously been away for a long time and came back, and the quality of player that's in the league is huge. But a lot of those players are working full time and then coming in and playing football, and it's a big commitment. I think we train as professionals, but we're I suppose classified as amateur, you know. So I think the long term goal, or even the short term goal over the next 5 to 10 years, I think needs to be to try and get this league to semi pro level, and I think that can only have an effect on the senior international team, because if you look at the last squad of players, a lot of the girls are here playing in Ireland, and they're young players as well. So realistically, they're not going to go away to England until maybe they're 18 and finish their leaving cert at least, and then kind of can we give them a platform to build themselves on, so that when they go to England, it's not such a shock to the system, or they go to Italy, wherever they might play, you know, that kind of way. I think that kind of, for me, as I said, needs to be the kind of main focus now, is getting the league to a standard where we can compete with teams around Europe.
Yeah, I think we're close, and hopefully it does happen a lot sooner. You mentioned obviously playing abroad. Now, you play with the best teams in the States and obviously Italy. What was it like out that way? And you know, did you find a huge difference out there with standard and stuff?
Yeah, I think, look, I've been to France, England, America, Italy. Kind of, I've experienced all sorts of cultures. You know, I've experienced different styles of football, different styles, different people. You know, and I think even just away from football, it's a learning experience, it's a life experience to have gone through the things that I have gone through on and off the pitch. But yeah, every country I played in, as I said, it was different. So I think France and England, in terms of the style of football, were quite similar. I think Italy is a growing country in terms of how they're trying to get their league up and running. I think with the likes of Juventus, AC Milan, Roma, kind of back in their women's sides, that's a big thing. Even Inter Milan have come in as well. So I think they're kind of at an earlier stage, but I think within the next couple of years they'll definitely be at a high level within Europe. But yeah, look, just as I said, very privileged to have played in a lot of leagues around the world, and learned a lot, not just on the pitch but off the pitch, and life experiences that I think will stick with me for my future as well.
I think so. And like Stephanie, we have to speak obviously, you know, with setbacks and stuff. We know you've had some, you know, bad injuries over the years, you know, especially in England playing with Sunderland. But you know, how would you bounce back mentally? Obviously, you have to be really tough. It's obviously a grueling time for a footballer in any sports, I suppose, to go through such a bad injury and then having to, get back on track. Like, did you find that tough?
Yeah, I think particularly for me at the stage that it came at, because I originally signed a 2-year deal with Sunderland, and there was a bit of issues at the club with the men obviously getting relegated twice in 2 seasons. So I had just signed a new 1-year deal, excuse me, with Sunderland. And then unfortunately I got injured in pre-season, but it was the start of their campaign with Ireland. So I broke my leg in the first game of the qualifier. So for me, it was an unfortunate time. Obviously, no time was a good time to get injured, but it meant that I missed pretty much my whole last season with Sunderland. And when I came to the end of my contract, I hadn't played football for nearly a year, you know. So it was a crazy time, and I was kind of at a stage where I was like, what am I going to do? Like, do I try and go and play professional again? Do I come back to Ireland and try and work on getting my fitness back and enjoying football again? Which I suppose in hindsight, I look back and think maybe that's what I should have done.
Yeah.
But I decided to go and try play professional. I went back to Italy, or I went over to Italy. And when I went to Italy, I literally was just back running. I think I was out for nearly 18 months in the end with my leg break. And it was, look, I don't want to get into the ins and outs, but there was a lot of complications because we thought it was only going to be a short injury. It didn't seem like it was a major thing. And they'd missed something, which was unfortunate for me, obviously, but it was disappointing because it meant being out longer. And I went to Italy kind of just back running, really. I hadn't really done a lot in probably a year to 18 months, as I mentioned. And it was a bit of a strange time. And I went over there, and look, I enjoyed my time. I met some great people, played in Serie A, played in Italian football, and it was nice to experience that. But I think looking back, it probably wasn't the right move for me at that time because, as I said, I've been out for such a long time, and even just not just getting my fitness, but getting my kind of confidence back and knowing that my leg was right. I think that's a difficult one. And going to play in a country where you don't speak the language and training all the time. And when I went there, I think like any player, when you go to a new club, you play through pain nearly. And I probably shouldn't have done that. You know, I probably should have been easing myself in and getting myself ready to play again and used to kind of getting my body through the rigorous sessions. Whereas I was just kind of like, right, I want to play. I need to keep working hard and doing it. And I ended up nearly killing myself, if I'm honest, with my body was in bits after pre-season and sessions in Italy. And yeah, as I said, I enjoyed it. I ended up going back for a second season. It was a good time in my career, but there were a lot of issues off the pitch as well that I still kind of am a little bit frustrated with, but it's something that I've had to, as I said, deal with, not just football experiences, but life experience. You meet all sorts of people who promise you different things and then they don't come true, and you're like, what can you do? It's done now. But yeah, as I said, I think in hindsight, I probably should have looked to maybe stay in Ireland and get myself back playing and get my confidence back in terms of my fitness and all that as well. But again, it was a life experience. It's something that I can look back on.
You definitely learn from it. And like we were lucky enough to get you back to Ireland. Cork City, not so much because you love scoring against City, but obviously a double domestic. You know, Peamount, incredible team. Like being an all round supporter, like what a team. And what was it like to obviously get back to Ireland? Obviously, you know, family, everyone's around. Strange times, obviously, COVID, you can't have fans, and it must be horrible. But obviously, you're happy with how last season went, and it's obviously going to open up more avenues if you explore to maybe go back to England and play football or go to the States. There's obviously going to be knocks at the door for you.
Yeah, look, I think for me coming back, as I said before, it was about just getting back enjoying my football. And obviously, I played at Peamount before. I still had a few connections within the club. A lot has changed since the last time I played here. New managers, new coaching staff, all that sort of stuff. But literally, the mentality at Peamount is perfect for where I'm at. I think there's high demands in terms of wanting to perform. There's competition within the squad, so you can't go to train and just expect to play. There's going to be competition, and that's something that at this stage of my career, I need, and I can't just be kind of going, oh, I'll be grand at the end of this team, fine. So I'm always kept on my toes. There's always competition to play, and as I said, it's such a good environment. The squad of players that we have there, there's no bitchiness and moaning. It's just kind of like we're going to work hard for each other and we're going to win, and it's something that stood to the team over the last couple of seasons, as we've seen. I was lucky to come into a team that I've just won the league, and thankfully when I joined the team, we then won the double, which is nice, and that's something that we want to improve on. We want to do it again this year, and that's, I think, what the priority needs to be. I think we want to try and focus on getting further in Europe as well. I think last season we came very, very close to beating them. We put up a good fight against a good Glasgow team, but yeah, and unfortunately I missed out on the game. But yeah, look, just happy to be back home, happy to be enjoying the league, and as I said before, I'm hoping to see the league grow even more. So hopefully over the next couple of years that can happen.
You're a perfect ambassador. And last of all, Stephanie, just for all the young girls today that are, you know, looking to follow your footsteps and fellow Irish colleagues, what advice can you give them? Obviously, there's a lot of hard work and you have to stay dedicated.
Yeah, exactly. I think they're the obvious ones, aren't they? It's work hard. It's deal with setbacks. I think for me personally, as I said, when I went to England, I'd come from Peamount where I was like top goal scorer in the league. I was scoring for fun. I was playing attacking, free flowing football. And I went to play in Sunderland where I was played left wing, then left wing back. So my whole game changed, and I probably wasn't enjoying my football as much as I was at Peamount, but I was learning more and more to my game and bringing different aspects to it. But yeah, I'd say, look, just wherever you go and play, listen to your manager and do what they say, because they're the ones that pick the team at the end of the day. I think we see it all too often with young players. They maybe want to go and do what they feel they're good at, but if you want to fit into your team and do the right things, you got to do what your manager says. So I'd say, yeah, just stick to obviously stick to what you're good at, because there's been times over the years where when I played in teams that I probably didn't do the stuff that I was good at as much as I should have. I kind of tried to focus on the other stuff, if that makes sense, because you're being told to improve on this and then you're focusing on that too much. But yeah, look, just enjoy your football. If you get the chance to go and play professional or internationally, it's tough work. It isn't easy. Nothing comes easy. There's a lot of sacrifices. I mean, I was away for 7, 8 years, away from my boyfriend, away from my family, And that's tough, you know, and it's something that you have to stick with if you really, really have that passion to play at a high level. But enjoy your football, listen to your coaches, and work hard, and hopefully you can get there.
Stephanie, we absolutely love it. We're loving you on telly. You're not too biased being a Man United fan as well. I know if you're covering United game, you know some people can be biased, but you say it the way it is, and I love that. All the best, and we're wishing you all the best as well. We'll be behind you for the next number of years. You've plenty of more years.
Hope
Who
so.
knows, we might see you back in the States, or obviously Peamount are a huge club. But look, thank you for taking the time to speak to us. You're an absolute legend, and look after yourself.
No problem, Jerry. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you.